It's every person for themselves. The Republican down-ballot terror of Donald Trump grows by the hour. At least 20 current and former Republican lawmakers have announced they will not vote for Donald Trump. But as of now, many others are still backing their nominee. Like, for instance, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, who is just 2 points ahead of his Democratic opponent Patrick Murphy in a poll that was taken before the release of the Access Hollywood tape. Rubio has denounced Trump's comments but hasn't withdrawn his support. While in Pennsylvania, Senator Pat Toomey, who's also denounced Trump's remarks but hasn't ruled out an endorsement of Trump, is trailing his Democratic opponent Katie McGinty by 4 points in that same poll. Both Toomey and Rubio are being targeted in 2 separate ads from MoveOn.org, tying the senators to Trump. And the tape, here's part of the anti-Toomey ad.
When you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the you can do anything.
And joining me now to talk about all this, Charlie Pierce, writer-at-large for Esquire, Molly Ball, staff writer on National Politics of the Atlantic, Betsy Woodruff, politics reporter for the Daily Beast, and Jason Johnson, politics editor at The Root. Welcome to you all. Here's the dilemma, Jason, it strikes me for all these down-ballot people is, well, there's a bunch.
Right.
One of them is, really now? I mean, that's the hardest thing, to say, yeah, he did say to ban an entire religion of people, 1.2 billion people. Yes, he did say Mexico was sending rapists. And yes, he said he liked people that aren't captured. And yes, a bazillion other things.
Right.
This is where I get off the train.
You know, who would have known that Mitt Romney would be a profile in courage? Because he's the one who said, look, this is a problem all along. But I think there is a real danger here. If you're at the national level, fine, run away from Donald Trump. But I know Ohio. I know Central Georgia. And these are places where he is still incredibly popular. If you back away from him, you are going to lose your seat.
Well, that's the problem is you get caught in no man's land, right?
That's
Which
right.
is if you distance yourself too much, you're going to lose and depress turnout from the base. But you have to do some distancing because there's some group of voters that are going to be so disgusted by this, and you could end up managing to simultaneously alienate both.
That's right. And, you know, this is what the anti-Trump Republicans have been warning about from the very beginning, that these candidates would find themselves in this position, caught between a rock and a hard place. We heard with Paul Ryan in Wisconsin last night how he was shouted down by Trump fans for trying to take what he felt was a courageous stand against Trump's vulgarity.
Against
and all of
bragging of sexual assault, to be
yes,
clear about.
And all of these Republicans are in that same position. And like you say, it's very well could be impossible for them.
Charlie, there is a little bit of you built this Schadenfreude, I think, from people who have been watching this all develop.
I think there's a lot of you built the Schadenfreude, and I think it's well-deserved. I mean, I go back as far as the Nick Pack senatorial campaigns in the late 1970s that was run by the late Terry Dolan against people like George McGovern and Frank Church, which were absolutely vicious, but now look like Tea Parties, if you'll forgive the expression,
right.
Compared to what we have now. This has been a long time coming. And now they are now being, chased across the ice floes by their own monster.
So here's my question, Betsy. I've been thinking a lot about the why now question, right? Like when this tape came out Friday afternoon, we're sitting in the office thinking, I was like, oh my Lord, you watch it, you're sort of horrified, your jaw drops. But then the next thing you think is like, I don't know, I mean, the guy did call to ban Muslims. Right.
Well, he's not exactly a Boy Scout.
Right,
Yeah.
so why, what is your theory for why now?
I think it's the last chance for a lot of these guys to finally fully distance themselves from Trump, and the polls are so bad that there's a very narrow path at best for him to the presidency. These folks realize they're not going to be in trouble with the White House, probably because the odds that Trump will end up there are very slim. This is their last chance to jump off the Trump train, save face.
So the worry always is that you end up screwing yourself because you cross the future president of the United States, and from a game theory perspective, the 2 weeks post-debate were so miserable that they can now make that calculation.
Right. Everybody knows it's safe right now. They know Trump is less likely to win. But I also think there's a racial and cultural component. Let's be clear here. Donald Trump has been insulting women for years. And I know some people say, well, it's purely racial. No. He went from insulting women to talking about assaulting women. There's a certain segment of men who say, well, wait a minute. You can dog Megyn Kelly. You can dog all sorts of other kinds of women. The moment you talk about sexual assault, we've got to come in with our capes and protect them, which is disturbing.
Well, and then these statement after statement after statement, which I find so bizarre and cringe-inducing from every male Republican saying, as of
husband and a father and a, it's like
A grandfather.
Yeah, like what is with that? Why? Why does that have to be the first clause of all these statements?
Well, look, I mean, it's actually scientifically proven that when men have daughters, they do become more compassionate to women. And I think that is the lens through which a lot of men, I too believe women are people and we ought to see them that way. But I think the way that men process a lot of this information, it's a process. And but the way that a lot of men process this and relate to it is by, the women that they love in their lives. And so I don't have that much of an issue with that. But I do think that, a lot of these guys never liked Trump to begin with.
Yes, it's opportunistic.
But they felt like, it's not just that, it's that they felt like they had to stick with the voters of their own party and be accountable to them.
Right.
And once something like this comes out and it's on tape, it becomes impossible to pretend that he's anything else.
I just find, it just feels like omnidirectional cowardice to me.
Not only that, but the other day, before this thing broke, I had written an entire blog post on how what he said about the Central Park Five should have him pelted with rotten tomatoes.
Exactly.
That lasted about 6 hours.
Yeah.
And then this
I had to work hard to get it in the show that night.
I mean, that to me was absolutely astonishing. I don't believe in DNA testing.
Right.
Because that's so much.
These people who've been
so
exculpated.
much of modern republicanism rolled up in one ball.
But let's also remember, though, that this entire conversation gets to a larger existential problem in the Republican Party, which is that as far as we know, at least half, if not 80% of Republican voters aren't bothered by any of this.
Yeah.
They aren't annoyed with the Central Park 5 stuff. They aren't annoyed with the grabbing women stuff. What they care about is less trade with foreign countries and less immigration and fewer immigrants here in the country. And as long as there's someone saying that, they're going to be on board.
And
so
also,
you have a
let's
party
be
that's
clear,
split in half.
the one uniting strand for the entirety of the unruly coalition that is the Republican Party is that Hillary Clinton is a special and unique evil threat.
Right.
She is a specially duplicitous figure, and that right now, that's why I think tonight that's what we're going to see.
Well, yeah, and that, I have said this from the very beginning. When Trump was bragging, like, I'm going to go after Bill Clinton, I was like, you don't want to do that.
Right.
A town hall is not the time to do. The moment you start talking about Bill Clinton, everyone in the room is going to gasp, and you have lost this campaign.
That's right.
And I think what's key, looking forward for the Republican Party, you can't say that this was about getting together working class voters, because John Kasich and Rick Santorum talked about it. This is a race problem. This man has been screaming racist, ridiculous invective for 18 months, and the party was willing to put up with it. And this is the line that they say they got to cross. They need some serious self-reflection after 2016.
There's a lot to that. Jason Johnson, it's great to have you here. Thank you
Definitely.
so much. All right, Charlie, Molly, and